The red and blue lights painted our quiet suburban driveway like some bad crime scene. All because my 17-year-old son dared to leave his portable basketball hoop out overnight. What the self-appointed queen of the HOA didn't realize was that by dialing 911 on a kid's dream, she had just signed her own eviction notice from Power. My name is Ryan Harlan. My wife Michelle and I had scraped and saved for years to get our son Noah into Willow Creek Estates. This shiny slice of suburban California where the lawns look photoshopped and every mailbox matches the approved shade of tasteful beige. Noah was a basketball phenom on a roll. Scouts already circling. The kind of kid who could actually lift our family out of the paycheck-to-paycheck grind. I work freelance graphic design from the spare bedroom. Usually in basketball shorts and yesterday's t-shirt. Michelle? She called herself a municipal compliance consultant. Sounded boring as hell. I never pushed. She paid the bills and kept the lights on. The house had a wide driveway perfect for Noah's portable hoop. The one his grandfather welded together years ago. It rolled easy. Folded up. And meant the world to him. One Tuesday night he forgot to wheel it back into the garage after practice. Big mistake. Next morning, a crisp white envelope was taped to our front door like a court summons. $250 fine. Unauthorized outdoor equipment visible after dusk. Violation of Section 7.3, Community Aesthetic Standards. The letter dripped with that fake polite HOA venom. We trust forward-thinking families will embrace the standards that preserve property values for all residents. I decided to be the reasonable one. I walked over to Karen Langley's house, the biggest one on the cul-de-sac. With the 3-story foyer and the Tesla in the driveway that probably cost more than our mortgage. Karen answered the door in yoga pants that had never seen a downward dog and a smile so tight it looked painful. Mr. Harlan, she cooed, tilting her head like I was a confused puppy. Rules are rules. They apply to everyone. Even newer families still learning our ways. I explained it was portable. It was one night. My kid was working his ass off for college. Karen's smile never reached her eyes. Property values. Ryan. That's what we're protecting. Some families understand that. Others well. Perhaps they'd be happier in a less structured community. I walked home steaming. When I told Michelle, I expected her to freak out. We didn't have $250 lying around. Instead she sipped her coffee, eyes calm, and said the 4 words that would change everything. Document everything. Let her dig. She said it so quietly. So matter-of-factly. Like she'd handled 1,000 Karens before breakfast. There was a steel in her voice I'd never noticed. I asked how she could be so chill about money we couldn't afford to lose. Michelle just smiled that small, mysterious smile and said, "Bullies always overplay their hand if you give them enough rope." The next weeks felt like slow suffocation wrapped in pastel perfection. Karen's fine started climbing, $75. Then $150. Then $400. Certified letters arrived weekly. Each one more condescending than the last. She started patrolling our street in her golf cart, clipboard in hand, snapping photos of our driveway like a suburban paparazzo. Neighbors who used to wave now looked away or offered tight smiles. I caught snippets of the whispers she was spreading at the community pool. They're the ones lowering standards, working class family. You know, probably can't afford to maintain things properly. The son's friends look a little rough. Noah started hesitating before he pulled the hoop out. The kid who used to laugh and trash talk while draining threes now looked over his shoulder like he was committing a felony. College scouts were still calling. But the vibe was shifting. One coach even asked casually if there were any issues in the neighborhood we should know about. Every time I brought it up, Michelle would listen, nod, and go back to her laptop. She was on more consulting calls than usual, late at night. Door closed. Using words like discovery, pattern of conduct, and civil rights implications. Once I walked in on her reviewing what looked like an official county document with a seal I didn't recognize. She closed the laptop smoothly. "Trust me," she said. "She's building her own case. We're just taking notes." Karen escalated like a woman who could smell desperation. She started knocking on doors. Just checking in with neighbors about safety concerns and maintaining the family-friendly atmosphere. Susan from 2 houses down pulled me aside one evening and told me Karen had been asking pointed questions about our income. My freelance work. Even whether Noah's friends looked like they belonged here. The woman was on a mission. Later I learned her own McMansion was underwater, divorce. Bad investments. The usual rich people problems she'd die before admitting. Forcing undesirable families to sell cheap so she could flip properties was apparently her retirement plan. Michelle's calm started to unnerve me. She knew things, certified mail requirements. Statutes of limitations on harassment. How to log discriminatory animus. When I asked where she learned all this government regulation speak, she shrugged. Years of compliance work. You pick things up. But the way she said it made my skin prickle. Like she wasn't just picking things up, she was the one who wrote the damn rulebook. Then came the Thursday that broke the camel's back. Noah was out front with 2 buddies from the team. Shirts off. Sweating. Laughing. Pure teenage joy. The portable hoop was at the end of the driveway. Well within our property line. Karen marched across the street in her designer sunglasses. Phone already in hand like a weapon. "Excuse me. This is a clear violation. You boys need to disperse immediately." The kids froze. Noah tried to be polite. "Ma'am. It's our driveway. We're not bothering anyone." Karen's voice climbed an octave. "I will not tolerate this kind of disruptive behavior in my community. I'm calling the authorities." We all thought she was bluffing. She wasn't. 20 minutes later. 2 sheriff's cruisers rolled up. Lights flashing. Neighbors poured onto their lawns like it was the best reality TV they'd seen all year. Officers stepped out. Hands near their belts. Treating this like an actual incident. Karen was in full performance mode. Gesturing wildly. "These teenagers have been loitering. Possible narcotics activity. I saw one of them with a suspicious package." My stomach dropped. Noah looked terrified. Then Michelle walked out of our house. One of the deputies did a double take. "Mrs. Harlan? County Manager Harlan?" The energy shifted instantly. The other deputy straightened up. Karen's mouth snapped shut mid-rant. Michelle's voice was ice calm. "Professional. Officers. I'd like the incident number for the record. And a copy of the body cam footage. Please. Also, could we get a written statement from the complainant regarding these very serious allegations of drug activity?" Karen started backpedaling so fast she nearly tripped over her own Lululemon. I may have misspoken. It's just the hoop. The rules. You people never follow the rules." The officers took statements. They were thorough. Painfully thorough. Especially after Michelle quietly mentioned false reporting and potential civil rights concerns. Karen's face went from righteous fury to dawning panic as she realized her little power trip had just been documented 6 ways from Sunday. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no. Women like her double down when cornered. She filed for a restraining order. Sued us for intentional infliction of emotional distress and creating a public nuisance. Hired some shark attorney who charged more per hour than I made in a week. The complaint painted Noah as some kind of driveway gangster and us as trash ruining the neighborhood. I was spiraling. We can't afford this fight. Michelle. She looked at me with that same calm smile. Then opened a drawer I'd never paid attention to. Inside was a framed law degree from a top-tier school and a county government ID that made my knees weak. County manager. The highest non-elected position in the entire county. The person who oversaw the sheriff's department budget. The person every city manager, every department head, ultimately answered to. I didn't tell you because I wanted us to have a normal life, she said softly. Not the lawyer wife who fixes everything life. But this woman picked the wrong family to bully. The next few days were a masterclass in quiet competence. Michelle reviewed every document Karen's attorney filed and found procedural holes big enough to drive a truck through. She built a file so thick it needed its own box, every fine. Every letter. Every recorded conversation. Every neighbor's statement about Karen's financial motives. Court day arrived. The courtroom was packed with curious neighbors. Karen sat there in her best pearl necklace. Looking smug. Certain her money and connections would crush us. Then Michelle stood up in a tailored navy suit I'd never seen her wear. Briefcase in hand. And introduced herself to the judge. Your Honor. Michelle Harlan. County manager for this jurisdiction. Representing my family pro se in this matter involving clear retaliation and abuse of process. The judge actually smiled. Karen's face did something complicated, half recognition. Half oh shit. What followed was beautiful. Michelle dismantled Karen's entire case with surgical precision. Audio clips of Karen's condescending remarks. Time-stamped photos showing selective enforcement, other families with hoops. Boats. RVs that somehow never got fined. Susan's sworn statement about Karen's foreclosure pressure and plan to force sales. Documentation proving Karen had personally profited from at least 2 previous encouraged sales in the neighborhood. Karen took the stand and unraveled. Every time she tried to spin her 911 call as concern for safety, Michelle calmly played the body cam audio where Karen explicitly claimed narcotics activity. The judge's eyebrows climbed higher with every contradiction. The ruling was swift. Petition dismissed with prejudice. Sanctions against Karen for frivolous litigation. A very clear warning about potential criminal charges for false police reports. Karen walked out of that courtroom looking like she'd been hollowed out. But the real finale came 2 days later at the sheriff's station. Karen, apparently still in denial, stormed in demanding to speak with the chief. She was mid-rant about corruption and that family must be stopped when the chief's door opened. Michelle walked in wearing her official county badge. Carrying briefing folders. Looking every inch the person who signs the chief's performance reviews. The chief stood up immediately. County Manager Harlan. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Karen's face drained of all color. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again like a landed fish. Michelle's voice was quiet. Almost gentle, the same tone she used when explaining to Noah why he needed to eat his vegetables. Karen. I'm Michelle Harlan. County Manager. The chief reports to county government, which means he reports to me. I'm also the mother of the boy you've spent the last several months terrorizing over a basketball hoop. The silence was so complete you could hear the fluorescent lights humming. Karen tried one last desperate gasp. I had no idea who you were. Michelle smiled. The same small smile she'd been wearing for months. That was your first mistake. And your last. Game over. The consequences were biblical in their satisfaction. Criminal investigation for repeated false reports. Civil rights complaint that triggered a broader review of HOA practices in the county. Karen's remaining assets got tied up in legal fees and victim restitution. Within 6 weeks she was forced to sell her McMansion at a massive loss and slink out of Willow Creek Estates in disgrace. the neighborhood association quietly revised several of its more ridiculous rules. Noah's scholarship offers came back stronger than ever. And that portable basketball hoop? It still sits proudly in our driveway every single day, sometimes with a little American flag duct taped to it. Just because we can. Looking back, the wildest part is how long Michelle let it run. She could have shut Karen down on day 3 with one phone call. Instead, she documented, waited, and built a case so airtight that Karen could never crawl back. So here's the question I keep turning over in my head. And I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Knowing my wife had the power to end this nightmare immediately, was letting Karen dig her own grave for months, letting our son feel the stress, letting the fines pile up, a necessary evil to deliver real, lasting justice? Or was it cold-blooded revenge that crossed a moral line? Was the real villain the entitled HOA Karen who abused her tiny kingdom? Or does the quiet person with real power who chose to let the suffering continue share some of the blame? Drop your verdict below. And if you've ever been targeted by an HOA Karen, tell me your story. Because the next time one of them decides to weaponize community standards against the wrong family, well, let's just say the basketball hoop isn't the only thing that can roll.